All right, let's go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join our webinar today. As a quick introduction, for those of you who might not know me, my name is Grace, and I work on the account management team here at RelSci. I'll be the one leading the webinar today, if that wasn't already clear. I'm also joined by my colleagues, Ashley and Alexa. They are also on the account management team here at RelSci, and they will be participating in the Q&A portion of the session. Just so everyone knows, you will have the ability to submit any questions that you might have along the way via the question box in GoToWebinar. And what we're going to plan to do is leave some time at the end of the session to review any of those questions. Of course, if there are any other questions you don't want to ask in a group setting, or maybe we don't have enough time to address them, you are more than welcome to direct any other questions you might have to the account management team here at RelSci, either myself, Ashley, or Alexa. Feel free to just send us an email after the session. Now, just as a note, we have designed this webinar series based on the client feedback that we've been receiving. So for that reason, we would really appreciate it if you take just 1 minute to fill out the survey that's going to be sent to you following this session. We want our webinars to be helpful. We want to make sure that we're covering topics that you're interested in and you want to learn more about. We do go through every single one of those responses. So please do take that opportunity to let us know what you'd like to see. You should be able to see it at the end of the session today, and it'll also be sent to you via email tomorrow as well. Now, you'll be able to find the schedule for any future sessions on our training page, which can be accessed directly from your RelSci account. So if you're on your home page like I am here, you would just navigate to the top toolbar and go ahead and click on that RelSci training page. And we're going to be updating this frequently with information regarding future sessions. We also have videos to previous sessions, so please feel free to check back for updates. Also, following this session, you are going to receive an email with a link to the recording from today's session. So in case you want to review anything, if we go a little bit too fast, you want to pause it, anything like that, you'll have the opportunity to do so. And of course, if you'd like to share this with your colleagues who weren't able to join the session, you're more than welcome to forward that along as well. All right, so now that we have covered all that good background information, let's go ahead and dive into what we are going to be talking about today. So today we are going to be looking at the relationship web, or what we normally call here at RelSci the RelWeb. So if you hear me say RelWeb, I'm referring to the same thing. Now, if anyone on this call is not familiar with the RelWeb, you can basically think of it most simply as just a way to group or maintain the connections that your organization has. And you can also think of it as a tool that allows you to pull in connections from a variety of different sources. So in general, the RelWeb is going to be most helpful for teams who are leveraging connections that are not held by the RelSci users themselves. So for example, if you want to leverage the connections of maybe your board members, your advisors, any donors or volunteers, but those folks don't have their own RelSci license or login on your account, the RelWeb could be a great fit for you. Now, the RelWeb is available to all of our clients. So if this is something you don't currently have enabled in your account, if you'd like to try it out, feel free to just let our team know. Again, you're welcome to reach out to Ashley, Alexa, or myself directly. And you can also connect with the three of us to schedule time for a more individualized training for you and your team, or for a personal review of your own RelWeb. So feel free to take us up on that offer. We'd love to connect with you all individually. Now, the RelWeb is going to be displayed in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. So you should be able to see it right here in My Account under the Relationship section. Now, the web is going to show you the first degree connections for anyone that's included in your web. If you want to expand your web and see all of the different relationship sources, all you need to do is click that caret and it will populate below. So this caret right here I'm referring to, if I go ahead and select that, I'm going to see all of the different sources. Now you're going to see that I'm pulling in connections from lists, profiles, proprietary contact uploads, colleagues, etc. And we're going to cover all of those different sources you can leverage in much more depth in just a minute, so hang on here with me. But what I want to show you before we dive into that is what these different numbers are representing, because I know it can be a little bit confusing. So for each relationship source, what you're going to see is the relevant first degree connections that are tied to that source. So if we take this RelSci alumni list, which you can see right here on the right-hand side, it's being included in my RelWeb. To be clear, that list doesn't have 12,000 plus individuals on it. Rather, what that number is representing is the individuals who are on my alumni list can help to introduce me to over 12,000 people we have profiled here in RelSci. So it's that first degree connection piece. Now, the number represented in your RelWeb up top, right here, should be the sum of all of the below connections or relationship sources that are included in your web. Now, if you are better at quick mental math than I am, you may have already noticed that all of my relationship sources may not perfectly add up to the RelWeb count. Now, that is completely common, so if you see that in your account, no problem. The reason why this can happen is if there's any overlap between different RelWeb sources. So let's say, for example, I have an individual who's included on my RelSci alumni list here, and that individual is also one of Mike Lee's, public connections in the RelSci database. That person isn't going to be added twice, and therefore, that top number might not be a perfect sum of all of those different relationship sources. Again, if you have any other questions about that, feel free to let us know in the question box. But you'll see my RelWeb here is currently just leveraging one list, 2 different profiles. Again, we're going to talk about all those sources in a little more depth in just a moment. But you will see that users have the ability to sync their own proprietary contacts into this web too. Now, that's something we're not going to have time to cover in our session today, but you would do that by clicking the Upload Contacts button right here at the bottom, and you could sync that from your Outlook, your Gmail, your LinkedIn, Salesforce, mobile, etc. If you have any questions about that upload process, about syncing your own relationships, feel free to, again, navigate back to our RelSci training page here. You should be able to see a previous training where we cover that in depth. And again, you're more than happy to reach out to your CSM or account manager directly, and we'd be happy to walk you through that process. Now, after we've gone through the relationship web here, you probably want to know how you can edit it, how you can manage it. So that's what we're going to cover next. We really want you to be able to use your RelWeb as a way to maximize your relationship reach in RelSci, find connections through all of those different leaders and door openers at your organization. Now, I want to be clear, in order to make any changes to your RelWeb, you're going to need to be a RelWeb admin. So that's a really important part of this. Typically, each organization will assign one of their RelSci users to be that admin. And if you don't currently have that functionality, but you think maybe you should, no problem, just check in with your team. Feel free to reach out to Ashley, Alexa, or myself, and we can help you to make any of those updates. But if you don't see some of the processes I'm about to cover right here, it's likely because you're not a RelWeb admin in your own account yet. Now, if you are a RelWeb admin and you want to make any changes, all you need to do is navigate to the relationship management page. Now, you can do this one of 2 ways. The first way you can do this is by clicking into your name in the upper right-hand corner here, and then just selecting relationship management from the drop-down. Now, alternatively, you can click into any of the sources in your relationship web, and we'll go ahead and do that quickly just so you can see what that looks like. So let's say, for example, I want to see everyone included on the relationship science profile. I want to see exactly who's in my web. If I click into any of those sources it's still going to bring me to this relationship management page. And what I'll be able to do here, you'll see, is select which relationship web source I'm interested in right here from the drop down. So if I want to look at my relationships, that alumni list, contacts being pulled in by Mike Lee, or that relationship science profile, I just make that selection. And then I can see all of those details below. So here's a great example. You can see clearly there are not 13,000 individuals listed here. We have just a few, but these are highly influential individuals, and they can introduce me to over 13,000 people in the database here. Now, once you're on the relationship management page, again, you can get to this by clicking into your RelWeb or clicking on your name and then selecting it from the dropdown. If you're a RelWeb admin, you'll be able to see the Manage Relationships Webs button right here underneath the title. So you'll go ahead and click on that directly to make any changes. Now on this page, we are going to see a few different options. So I want to walk you through what each of these mean here. Now, the first option is going to be to create a new relationship web right here on the left-hand side. Now, this is great if you don't currently have a relationship web set up in your account. You want to create one from scratch. Go ahead and select that button. Right next to create a new relationship web, we have the view, edit an existing relationship web. This is going to be probably where you will come most frequently, the most popular option here. This is for users who already have a relationship web and just want to make changes, whether that's bringing in a new list or excluding certain individuals, etc. If you have a relationship web in your account already and you want to remove it, go ahead and just click that Delete Existing Relationship Web button. And then these two buttons here at the bottom are only going to be specific for certain types of RelSci users. So if you are a RelWeb admin and you oversee multiple RelSci user groups on your account, so an example of this, maybe you have a New York City team and they're one user group, and then you also have a Chicago team and they're another user group, and they have different relationship networks, different settings, etc. If you want to apply an existing web from one group to another or remove a relationship web from one group to another, you have those options here at the bottom. Now I know that's a little bit tricky. If you have any questions about that specifically for your RelWeb or for your RelSci users, again, feel free to reach out to our team. We'd be happy to look at your specific account and walk you through all of that. Now, what I'm going to be doing today is the most common option. I want to go ahead and view or edit that existing relationship web. This is again, what I imagine our users are doing probably 90% of the time here. So go ahead and select that button right in the middle. And what I'll be able to see is any relationship webs I manage. So in my case, just one web here. Again, that will be most common for most of our users on the line. But if you oversee multiple RelWebs, you would be able to just make that selection as well. So I'll go ahead and select my web and click Next Step right here at the bottom. Now, this is where I get to make any changes to my relationship web and where I can add in all of those different sources. So I want to review those in detail. You'll see at the top of the page, I can add a name to my relationship web. So I just have that here for the webinar, but you can make this any name that, helps you remind you of those connections. Underneath that, the first option is to include any private relationships. Now, private relationships refer to the connections that have been synced by a RelSci user to their account. So typically these are going to be your colleagues who also have RelSci licenses, and they have synced their own proprietary contacts, whether those are being pulled in from their email, LinkedIn, Salesforce, etc. Now, right now you can see I don't have any private relationships being included in my web, but I want to go ahead and change that. Now, to add in those private relationships, all I'm going to do is click this plus button right here, and I'll be able to see all of my colleagues who I manage and make that selection to see who I'd like to add in. If you have a lot of different users that you manage, you can search them here, or if you just scroll, you should be able to see them detailed as well. So I'm going to go ahead and select my colleague Jane Doe here, and add her to the relationship web. I want to leverage her own proprietary contacts throughout the platform so I can see how she can help to make those introductions to my targets. Now you'll see I have a nice red box under private relationships, so I know those are being accounted for. In your web, if you already have this and you just want to edit your colleagues who are being included, you'll be able to see this little filter button in the red box here. Go ahead and click on that. It'll give you the same view so you can make any updates, add or exclude any colleagues who should be included there. Now, the next option is to include any lists. So in your RelWeb, you have the option to pull in different lists that you've already uploaded into your account. To be clear, the RelWeb admin must be the owner of that list to add it to your web. So if one of your colleagues has created a list, you won't have the ability to add that into your web unless you then make yourself the owner. And again, I know that can be a little bit of a nuanced process, so feel free to reach out to us. We can walk you through that directly. Also, I do want to note that you can't upload lists of organizations into your RelWeb. These just need to be lists of individuals. So keep that in mind as well. And the final thing I'll note about lists is that these are going to be static. They need to be maintained by your RelSci users. So if you have, for example, a list of your current board members that you want to pull in, your RelSci users will need to add new board members or remove board members when those changes happen. Otherwise, that won't be reflected in your RelWeb if you have that uploaded as a list. So again, just talking about lists here. You'll see any lists that are already included in your web as a red box. And again, if you want to make any additions, just go ahead and click that plus button here. So let's say I want to include another list in my account. I have this RelSci investors list. I want to leverage them for introductions throughout the platform. Just going to go ahead and make that selection. Again, if you have a lot of lists, you can use our search bar here and click add. Now we'll see that reflected. Below that, we'll have organizational relationships, and this is going to be often the most popular RelWeb source. What this allows you to do is add in the public relationships for your own organization or for maybe another organization that you work with closely. So this is going to refer to the RelSci profiles we have for those organizations and all of the individuals who are publicly affiliated with that org. You can see here I've already pulled in the organizational relationships for my firm, Relationship Science. And if I want to make any changes to who from my firm is being pulled in, I just click on that gear icon right here. And so you'll see I am currently pulling in the current board and executives. But if I wanted to include any of these other individuals affiliated with my organization or change the time frame for that leadership, I can make those selections here and just click add to make that update. And if you have multiple organizations you want to leverage, let's say, for example, you are dialing in here and you work at a college or university, and maybe you have the profile for the overall org you want to manage, but you also have maybe a university foundation you want to pull in here, or a different profile for a business school, law school, etc. You can add in as many organizations as long as they're already profiled in the RelSci database by clicking that button here and just going ahead and searching and selecting who you'd like to add. And finally, at the bottom, we have the option to include any people's relationships. Now, this is going to differ from private relationships. Private relationships are tied to the RelSci users who have synced their own private relationships. Public relationships here at the bottom, that's going to refer to individuals who are profiled in RelSci and have public relationships tied to their RelSci profile. Now you can see here, I've included an individual, Mike Lee, in my relationship web. The reason I've included him is because he's a close friend of the firm. We all work with him closely, all really get along with him. We know that he could help make introductions to his network. He's an influential guy, but he isn't being reflected in the profile we have for RelSci, or he isn't on one of my alumni or investors lists. So I want to make sure I'm capturing his network, so I've just added him here at the bottom. Again, you can add any other individuals who are profiled in the RelSci database just by clicking that plus button here and searching their name. Now, if you have any questions about any of these sources, again, feel free to add those to the question box. We'll make sure to cover them in just a minute. But once you've made any changes to your RelWeb, here we've added in our colleagues' relationships in this new list. To save those changes, all I have to do is hit Apply Changes right here at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Now our relationship web has saved. And now if you direct your attention to the right-hand side of the page, you can see our relationship web has already grown. Now we're pulling in the relationships from my colleague here that we've synced, as well as that new RelSci investor list. Now we don't have a ton of time left, but I do want to cover quickly how this relationship web will allow you to see different connections throughout the RelSci platform. So I'm going to take our remaining time here to show you two quick examples. Now the first example is going to be on a profile. Again, we have profiles for over 10 million individuals, about 2 million orgs, and just as a reminder, you access those by using our search bar at the top. So let's say, for example, I am looking to find connections to Bill Gates. I want to leverage my new updated relationship web. I'll just type in his name in our search bar and select the correct entity from the dropdown. That's going to bring me to the profile. Now, if you have any questions on the profile, we don't have time to cover it all today, but feel free to direct them to either Ashley, Alexa, or myself. If we scroll down on this profile, whether it's for an individual or organization, what we'll be able to see is all of the ways that we can connect to that entity. That's going to be pulling in the connections from that relationship web that we just updated. So if you look on the left-hand side here, you're going to see all of those different sources reflected. I can see connections through my colleague, Jane Doe. These are her own private connections she's uploaded, and how that can help introduce me to Bill. I can see connections through Stephen here, who's included on my investor list that I've just synced to that web. I can see connections through Kenneth, who's being pulled in from the profile we have for relationship science, and so on. So with that RelWeb, whenever you're looking for connections, you should see under that individual's name how they're affiliated with your org or how you've added them to your RelWeb. Now this also pulls over to the Pathfinder functionality. So that's the second example I'd like to show you quickly here. You can always access Pathfinder here on the right-hand side. And again, this is something we've covered extensively in other webinars or trainings. So if you want to review that, feel free to just visit that training page or our YouTube channel. But if you're on a profile, you can always access Pathfinder by clicking the See All Paths button. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. Now, if you have a relationship web enabled in your account, that's going to be the preset in Pathfinder. And that's what we're going to look at again today. But of course, you can change this. And what I'll be able to see is now, instead of just 5 paths, the top 300 paths I have from my web to Bill Gates. And again, we're seeing those same different relationship sources reflected. So proprietary relationships from my colleagues, my lists, the profiles, and so on. The one thing I'd like to show you in Pathfinder, which is really cool with relationship webs, is the ability you have to filter those connections. So if you are mapping from your RelWeb, you'll be able to see that listed here on the right-hand side, and there'll be a filter button directly next to that RelWeb. If you go ahead and select that filter button right here, you're going to have the option to exclude or just focus specifically on sources in your web. So the first tab will show you any people or your colleagues who have RelSci licenses and are contributing private relationships. So if you'd like to deselect any of those individuals or focus on a certain subset, you can make that selection. And similarly, if you toggle over to the Sources tab here at the top, you will be able to see any of the different relationship sources that are included in that RelWeb as well. So you can make any updates there and just hit Apply to update your search. I know I've gone a little bit over our time here, so I want to make sure we have time for any questions. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up to Ashley and Alexa, who will review those. And if you haven't submitted your question yet, feel free to do that in the question box.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Grace. This is Ashley here. One of the first questions that we got asks, can you have more than one relationship web? Excellent question. The answer is yes. If your team is all leveraging the same relationships, lists, organizations, one web would definitely be sufficient because there's no limit on how many lists and orgs and people that you can tag. And like Grace showed here, you can easily filter in Pathfinder and remove specific sources if you need to. But where I have seen two separate relationship webs being leveraged is if, for example, your team is leveraging these set of lists, but then maybe you have a law school, maybe you're a university, and your law school users are leveraging different connection points. That's where we can create two separate webs, one for a team leveraging A lists, one for the team leveraging the B lists. So that is definitely a possibility. And so far, that's the only questions. If anyone has questions, please feel free to type them in the box. We have just about 15 minutes left if any questions come up. But like Grace said, alternatively, if you'd rather reach out to your CSM to ask them your questions, certainly feel free to do so. And like she said, the survey will be sent out sometime tomorrow, has a link to this recording if you want to share it with your team. Oh, there we go. We got some more questions coming in.
We got a question that I don't see my RelWeb on my account, only my firm's relationships. How do I activate the RelWeb? So that's a great question. Activating the RelWeb is available for all of our clients. You can reach out to your account manager to have them enable that function. And then whoever would like to be the admin of that account and create that RelWeb, just let us know and we can grant you the admin and help you build out your RelWeb.
Now the next question we got, this is actually a question that we receive very frequently, is how often are connections updated? Board memberships change frequently. Excellent question. So on our profiles, like Grace mentioned, we have over 10 million people profiled. So in order to keep up with creating profiles, updating profiles, we have a team of about 200 researchers, and they're getting this information from public sources. So we get it from company websites. A lot of times there's a team page set up that tracks board and exec moves. So we are able to build bots. I'm not tech savvy, but we build bots on these company websites to track those changes, and those are automatically pushed to profiles. And then we also receive information from third-party vendors, LexisNexis, FactSet, Crunchbase, Thomson Reuters. So they send us these Delta files periodically, sporadically, depending on what we have set up with them. And those also are tracking any updates that we can push to profiles. But if you happen to notice that something's outdated, you could, of course, notify us at the top under RelSci Services. That allows you to put in research request tickets, and the team is pretty quick to turn it around 2 to 6 business days. But generally, we're capturing that information from all of the different public sources and due diligence that we have on our side.
We have another question. If I only have one list in the RelWeb, which is the foundational board, how do I build other RelWebs without a list? You can do so on when Grace went to manage relationship webs, and you got that drop down of adding, as you can see, she's going right now. When you select view and edit an existing web, That's where you can add maybe a list that you've created, a person's connections, like you see Mike Lee's on the right-hand toolbar. So you can add any of these options to your RelWeb, and then you can just utilize more connections directly through that web.
And we'll just give it another minute. If anyone has any more questions, you can type them out now. But like we were saying, the survey literally takes 60 seconds. If you could just complete it. If you have any ideas for future webinars, like Grace said, we read every single survey, so please feel free to give any feedback or any ideas that you have for our future sessions. I think that wraps up the question portion. I don't see any other questions coming in, but if you think of anything after this, please feel free to reach out to Grace, Alexa, or myself, and we'd be happy to walk you through any of these features if you missed anything or need additional review. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much, Grace.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.